Okay guys, listen to me. How would you feel, artists, if you rocked up at your exhibition opening and realised that the gallery had pre-sold $100,000 of your work off the wall before the doors even opened? Would you be happy? I bet you would. Now, what would you say if I told you that all you will get from that at the end of the day, after we crunch all the numbers, probably $15,000 before your personal income tax? How does that make you feel? You don't believe me, do you? I'm going to show you that in this video, and you're going to be very surprised at how it crunches down. So stay with me. Today we're going to look at what professional artists really get paid working with commercial galleries. Most artists aspire to get into a commercial gallery stable, but I want to show you today what that actually looks like using the numbers. By the end of the video, you might change your mind about what you're wishing for and see it in a completely different light. So if you're feeling like a failure because you haven't got to that point yet, take heart. By the end of this, you might be glad you never did. Now, I'm not saying that it is not a great thing to be represented by a commercial gallery. That does give you leverage on your CV. It does. And that's the tricky part about this game. It's working out how to balance that. But if you think it's going to bring you huge commercial success, you've got another thing coming. I'm Helen Norton, and on this channel, Soul Making Studio, we talk about the soul of artists. And you're probably wondering, okay, you're talking about money. So what's going on here, Helen? This channel is also all about how we sell our souls out and we lose track of being in touch with who we really are because of the commercial world. Doesn't mean it's bad, it's just what happens. The channel is all about you being realistic about where the problems come from, not so you can run away from them, but so you can work out how to deal with them more realistically. And there are plenty of ways to do that. Because some of this longing about getting into a commercial gallery is totally tangled up in how you judge yourself, how you get stuck on step 0, which I'll put in the video above, step 0, but also going back to my earlier videos on how you get yourself all tangled up about your style versus your voice. And there's tons of videos in this playlist all about that. And the traps of you getting addicted to this cycle of winning, the formula of winning, which the galleries really must have you do. They can't operate a business without you being predictable and having a predictable, good performance. So let's get realistic about it. This isn't about putting the galleries down. They are a business, a commercial business. They need sales. They want artists whose work they can sell easily. They've got to pay the rent on that gallery. It's very expensive commercial space. Why would they want a gallery full of stock artist work that they can't move, or that causes their customers to turn away in disgust, or boring, haha, whatever it is? So you can see that this is all part of a circus. It's an entertainment thing, but it is based in money. It's what makes the world go round. Now, I'm qualified to tell you about this. I've had 60 solo exhibitions at really good commercial galleries, both in Australia and overseas. And I even put one on board the QE2. So I've been on both sides of this. I've had my own galleries where I've organised exhibitions myself by arranging venues around Australia and the world and paying for those venues. But of course I had to pay for everything else, such as the lighting, the easels, display boards, staff, everything. So there is this trade-off. When I'm telling you these things, I know it's easy to think that I'm putting them down. It's not about that. When you're doing your soul work, it's about looking at things realistically. And then you don't have to even make judgments. You've just got the stuff that you can then decide more clearly on as far as what your priorities are going to be. And also sometimes when you've just got to bring a balance about in what you're doing. Not too much of this or not too much of that. Having those big, high reputation commercial galleries on your CV will actually get you more galleries on your CV because they all look to each other to see how things are going. What do you do when you want to know if something's going to work? You look, of course. They will go and they'll see, oh look, Fred Jack Gallery had Billy Brown and they sold out. Now that gallery is going to want you lickety split, aren't they? That's how it goes. It just compounds. It's not rocket science. It's just commercial reality. So they're not demons, they're not evil. And the only reason it gets tangled up like that, even in your own mind, is because you associate your soul, your self-worth, who you really are, with whether or not what you're putting out there sells or not. So then we have to turn to what the galleries charge to be your agent. When they sell your work, they don't own it to sell it. You give it to them on consignment, so they're only acting as your agent. The work always remains as your property until it's sold and money's exchanged. It's very different if they come to you and say, I want to buy that entire body of work or that piece of artwork from your studio. They might offer you a wholesale price. That happens sometimes. And then you don't have a say about what happens to it, apart from copyright, of course. So it's worth learning about. There's a great book called The Magic and the Monkey that was written many years ago. I'll put up the image of it here and you might have to go and see if you can find it. I don't even know if it's still in publication. Really good. Tells you all about that and the legal stuff behind all that. There's many things to complain about when you're having to fork out a 40% and sometimes 50% commission on a work that's sold. When I was exhibiting with the London galleries, they took 50% commission. Can you imagine that? And then you start asking all the questions. They didn't paint the work, they didn't buy the materials, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. I can give you the whole list. I know every single complaint. And most professional artists know all about this, and this is why they end up falling out of favour with commercial galleries, because they try to fix it. So this myth about you not making it till you get in a gallery isn't really a myth, it's actually real. It's manifested reality when it happens and it snowballs. But it is not necessarily the measure of whether your art is good or bad, because they might have a very small window of people that come into that gallery while your work is on display for a very short span of time. And I'm going to show you that little sore point in a minute. These days, there's so many other ways you can sell your work, and it's worthwhile doing some work on that. There's so much artist advice out there on actually doing that. Let me show you why being a successful artist in this system can end up a real poverty trap, and one that keeps you in a real rut because of your loyalty to the gallery. You might be with 4 galleries, but they won't represent you if you're in the same state or within cooey of another gallery. 99.9% of the time, you would need to be in another state with another gallery. You can't have one up that street and then up the other. They won't allow that. That's what I mean about the stable, which I went over in the last video up here. So I imagine for you professionals out there watching this, this is no surprise to you, and you would know that this is just the compromise you make. And wait till I get you to the very end of my equation, which I will do on paper, before you say to me, well, if I just have 4 exhibitions a year at all these galleries. Well, that's actually what we all try to do when we're in there, you know, being successful, but it still doesn't work out that good. But it does drain the life out of you, unless you get up to that level of, you know, selling work for $100,000 a piece. But even then, there is this sense of being ripped off. You know, imagine selling one painting for $100,000 and the gallery takes $50,000 for hanging it on their wall for 10 days, and you slaved over it for 6 months. All right, so you imagine getting into an art gallery as the pinnacle validation. It's the communication that you are successful. But what actually happens when you make it? This video is going to pull back the curtain on the brutal economics and pretty much the emotional poverty of the whole system. It feels great until it doesn't. Eventually, after quite some time, you start to feel like what I felt like a sausage machine, and that the gallery really gave a stuff about what I was painting. That's not their job, they're there to sell. And some of the dirty things that go on in the background, you know, you just have to get one staff member that doesn't like the cut of your jib. I experienced that. And that person, that staff member, can sabotage your entire career simply by having a bad attitude on the floor of the gallery. That's happened many times, and the gallery owner doesn't even know about it. And how do they do that? It's easy. Someone comes in to look at the work, and all they do is put no energy into the selling. So here's the reality, guys. You go into your studio to create a beautiful body of work. It might be 20 or 30 brand new original works, maybe half of them are large and the other are medium, you know. And you could be in there for 6 to 12 months, and you are in your studio alone every day, listening to podcasts or music or whatever. Sounds fantastic until you're there, but you don't feel the sting until you get to the finish line. Now, let's look at this. The basics are that you pay for everything, all the materials, all the framing, all the photography, the shipping, insurance, both ways because you have to get it back. If you go to the opening, you have to pay for your flights or fares there. You've got to pay for your accommodation. You probably have to get a hire car. You've got to eat out. That's all on you. And what do you get for that? You get a 2-hour opening night, generally from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. when they turn the drinks off. And during that time, you get to talk to 30 to 50 people if you're lucky. Depends on how much you've been promoted. That's about 2.4 minutes for each person, if you're lucky, while you actually do the selling yourself. And 99% of the time, all the tie kickers are there, the regulars that come for the free wine and what used to be the horses' duvers, grab you, get a hold of you and corner you and talk their faces off to you because they want to be seen with the artists. These are the freeloaders. These are not the buyers. And they're lovely people. They support the arts, but they take up all your time. Meanwhile, the gallery owners are running around grabbing you and saying, look, this person wants to buy, go and talk to them. And that's how it goes. So you often are the one that gets the sale of the painting over the line just for that 2 hours, but not always. Now stay with me because later in the video, I'm going to run the numbers right in front of you so you can see that I'm not exaggerating. Then you'll have some real hardcore reality to crunch into. You're probably saying, look, Helen, what are you going to do about, how are you going to make money if you just crushed everything? Oh, there's so many ways to make money. Gosh, come on, you're a creative person. You should be able to apply that same creativity to how I can sell my work. There's plenty of answers. And in another video, not too far away, I'm actually going to tell you all the things that I did because I can tell you right now, I did not make all of my good income out of commercial gallery sales. They were the lowest band of all the income that I made every year. They weren't the lowest, but it was the lowest net return. So there are ways to do it, and I know all you clever people out there that have learned it, you know what they are, but let's just first get this sorted out. The myth of the commercial gallery being the answer to your dreams. It isn't. So let's just assume that a gallery has booked you in for an exhibition. It's usually about a year out, even more, because their calendars are booked out 3 years in advance sometimes. So it's a long time. So, you know, if you're not able to stay the course on long appointments, maybe don't apply for galleries. So you don't have to do anything at all once you've got that booking until about 6 weeks before the actual opening. And what the gallery does is it requests from you some very high quality photographs, and they need to be formatted generally into the right format, resolution, etc. They must be good. So if you can't do that yourself, then you'll have to get a professional photographer to do it. And you'll email those to them, as well as the details of all the paintings, you know, medium size, your price that you want, the retail price, unless you're working with them on that. Galleries have a very clear system. It's their job to organise the invitation to their client list. That's what you're paying them for them to market to their client list, not your client list. If you have a client list, you can send that out to them as well. You still got to pay commission if one of your private clients buys something from the exhibition, so get that clear, even if you sent the person directly. And once you've put your photos in and your price list, you can't, you know, withdraw things afterwards in the 6 weeks if someone comes along and buys one from your studio. You can't do that. Now, what the gallery has to do now is organise to have the invitation made up. In the old days, Korea, it was great. They'd have a beautiful physical invitation printed on a gorgeous DL card. Some of mine were really huge. It just depends on how much they want to invest in you. If they think you're a good investment, they'll spend more money. But don't forget, you're going to be paying half for that invitation. But it used to be good because they'd send it out, and that DL card, and this is one of the sacrifices in the digital age, people would get it in the mail. It was physical, and they might be in a bad mood, but they wouldn't throw it away. Generally, people would just put it on the fridge with a magnet, so it would stay there, you know, reminding everyone. So they make a digital invitation. Actually, they don't even make an invitation. They send a digital email out to all their mailing list, goes into the normal email box, and you know how much junk we get these days. Generally, people just go in the bin and block or unsubscribe. So that's how it works. The exhibition is launched, and in that invitation it says opening night on la la la, you've got to RSVP because they want to know how many drinks to have on board, etc. And it's announced that the exhibition will run from 2 weeks or 10 days usually, and all the rest. So already there is a degrading in the service that they're providing for you, and I know it's just the real world, but it's a huge difference. There's no ceremony around the exhibition anymore, like there used to be. Once they didn't even allow people to see the exhibition until the opening night, so there was this revving up of tension and excitement. And that caused sales on opening night. People would bust in the door and, go nuts to buy. Psychology's all gone. It's all twisted. Now what happens is if people want the stuff, they just ring up and buy it over the telephone and it's sold. So it's completely back the front to how it used to be. There's no build-up of energy. It's just like first in, first dressed. Dog eat dog. Just how our world is today. So there's no lovely piece of physical evidence that you exist on their fridge so they don't forget you when the opening's coming up. So not many people come to the openings anymore. Very small compared to how it used to be. So in the background, you're madly getting everything ready. And if you're exhibiting interstate, you would already be packing those works up. There would probably be a professional packer involved if you're going interstate because you can't afford to have them broken. And then you would have the insurance cost. Oh boy, that really adds up. That would all have to be done, oh gosh, a good month prior. The gallery doesn't want them too early, but they don't want them too late. So that's all on you. You have to organise all that and pay for it. So the big night arrives and the exhibition officially opens. How exciting. You come as the guest of honour. You rock up at 6 p.m. in your best arty farty clothes, ready for action. And I'm going to tell you right now that what this resembles is a wine tasting evening. At 8 p.m. they close the doors unless things are really rocking. I've watched this change over the years and I understand it, but it's become this exercise in economic frugality. It used to be like a big event because they only had one exhibition a month, so they would really make the most of the openings. But what happened is the galleries got more and more greedy. They made these formulas, and what they did is they made it so that instead of them exhibiting once a month or something and not exhausting the client base, they were opening every 10 days. Or 2 weeks at the most. Invites were going out and out and out to the clients who were getting tired and exhausted, and the artists were just getting like churned over like hotel sheets in a washing machine. You were in and then out in a flash. So when they started doing that and having these, more regular exhibitions, they got these regular people coming to the openings for free drinks every 2 weeks. Can you imagine? They'd have the horses' d'oeuvres for free, hors d'oeuvres, and drinks free. And so then what they did is they thought, well, that's actually getting too expensive. So they cut back. They never used to have a limit on the catering and, the wine and stuff. So they cut it back and they said, no, drinks cut off at 8 p.m, doesn't matter what's going on. So I can see how it works for them economically. But costs start getting cut and the whole thing changes from what it was. And you are not special. Oh, you're given this little opening, this 2-hour wine tasting where you can show up and your little ego gets a little rubber-dub-dub for that time and you get to speak about your art and la 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 and so on and so on. And then it's bye-bye everyone. Oh dear, it's all over. And there you are. You've been working for 6 months in that studio, maybe 12 months, and it's done. It's over. 2 hours, it's over. You'll be lucky if you got to drink 1 glass of wine because you're sort of jabbering all the time. So the salami and cheese on a toothpick turned into nothing because the tyre kickers were just consuming it all and there was no point to the whole thing, and I get it totally. But it's all really sad. Now I'm going to show you the numbers. They're quite confronting. The secrets to how I actually made my own money and navigated through that system are so important that they do need their own video. And that's what I realized as I was actually mapping it out on the whiteboard. The video was just getting huge, but that'll be coming up next where I can actually lay it out a little more carefully. But first, let's just let this brutal reality sink in. This is what the system is. This is going to be a short version for this video. I'm not going to explain everything, but in the video coming up next, I'll have tons of details if you want to look at it. I separated this to keep it simple for this one, but in the next one, I'm going to give you all the secrets about how I actually made money, which is not through working with galleries. So if you want that, look out for the next video, the detailed 2-hour wine tasting. Right, let's go. You start out having sold $100,000 of paintings in the gallery. We take off the 40% gallery commission. So that's 40,000. You're left with 60, but then they will take off half of the costs of the exhibition. So estimated that at 5,000. It's probably a bit less, could be more, depends. So that leaves you with a check for $55,000. That's what you get in your bank account. And then depending on your country, there will be the consumption tax. In Australia, it's GST, could be VAT, whatever. In Australia, it's 10%. So what we have to do when we're in business is pay that straight up. It's 5/5, but just to keep the numbers easy. So I'd be paying that straight away. So that leaves me $50,000. Now I'm going to list my expenses. These could vary, but this is based on the cost to create a complete exhibition. The other video has more details about the excess work. You know, the value of the work was actually 230,000, but we actually sold 100 of it. So there is leftover work, but that is not as simple as it sounds. There are complications with this leftover. Now you will be thinking, Helen, you've got that unsold work there. That's $130,000 of inventory. Well, I go into that in a lot more detail in the next video, but here's the problem. Unsold work becomes stale, not just in your eyes, but also in the market's eyes. But let's just leave that there for now. That's another topic. The market has already seen it. This is one of the complications of the digital age. In the past, it would only be seen in the gallery, and the gallery sends it back to you, and you pay for the return shipping, as I said. And psychologically, it's work that the market's rejected. That's what goes on in your mind, and it's what goes on in the market's mind. For you, as the soul maker, you've already moved on creatively, but then you get stuck storing these pieces, and they often don't sell later for the full price. It's not necessarily an asset. You can even see it as a bit of a liability. So you don't necessarily get these all sold. So this is what we got, 50,000, and this is what the costs are. I'm just going to list them and then take them off at the end. Your costs might be different, but this is based on high quality materials. So you'll have your brushes, paint. Remember, you're using artist quality, canvas, paper, whatever you use, and that would be absolutely easy to spend that. Stretcher bars, etc., especially if you've created something like 30 major work or 30 artworks. Then you'll have framing. Yes, I know you might not frame, but let's put it down. Then we've got shipping and packing, at least 5,000. It will be going interstate. Shipping, packing. Insurance would be at least 1,000 because you're insuring that amount. So we'll just put that down. And I've got some details, more details on that in the other video. If you do have to get a photographer in, that's about 1,000. And then you will generally have to go and travel to the exhibition. They do want you there. And that would be your airfare. You'll probably go with your partner or with a friend. Travel, hotels, you know, food. That's probably conservative these days. And then, of course, you have to ship back the work that is not sold. And I have lots more details about that returning work in the other video, the next video. So we'll keep it simple. Okay, right, so this all adds up, that whole list there, 34,500, right? And then we've got, that means that your taxable income, so that's your expense. So we're down to 50, so 50 minus 34 means your taxable, and I imagine I've left lots of things off there. Your taxable income is then basically 50 minus 34, which would be 15,500, right? So there's your 15. You didn't think I could get there, did you? So, and the thing I was trying to point out, so you went from 100 to 15, which is still taxable. Now you wouldn't have to pay tax on that, probably much at all, if that's your only earnings for the whole year, but can you imagine yourself living off that for the whole year? I doubt it. By the way, to get $100,000 of sales at an opening is exceptional. That's exceptional performance. I'm going to flip over the other side in a minute and show you the next disaster. Even on this rate here, 15,000, you would probably want to do that 4 times in 1 year. That means you're working really hard. And I can tell you, I won't show you here, but even at say 60,000 per annum, you would be working every day of the year. It works out that I think your actual pay per hour, and you're working all year, I think it's something around $26.50 per hour. How about that for being a famous artist? And working your guts off, right? And that was after if you got to that rate, you'd have to pay some tax. So I think that's what it worked out as. Crazy, isn't it? Now, just quickly, just to make it even worse, most artists only would make about 30,000. That's a pretty, average for a professional artist exhibiting. That's what they might get in an exhibition. So I'm just going to use the numbers from the other side. So the 40% commission would be about 12,000, I think, that comes off first. So you end up with 18,000 out of that. And then you would have to take off 1,800 for GST or VAT, paid straight to the government. So that would leave you with 16,200 minus over the other side, there was, 25,000 of expenses. So minus 25,000 expenses. And that would leave you, you'd be in the red, $9,000. You see, that would be your debt. So even if you did that, you had 4 exhibitions, this is more realistic for a professional artist. 4 exhibitions, so that would be, you see where I'm going with this? So if you're losing 9,000 for every exhibition, you do 4 exhibitions, 9, 18, 27, 36,000 it would cost you that to do them. That's not how we make money. And in the other video, I show you how I made money. I didn't make my money from exhibiting in galleries. They have a very good purpose, but you have to learn this. This is absolutely the key to whether or not you're going to do well financially as an artist. This is not the way, but they do have a purpose. All right, don't forget the other video, which I'll put up next week, will have the actual answer to this dilemma. Sorry to burst the bubble, and I'm sure many artists will say, oh, it didn't cost me that much for this, blah, blah, blah. Well, that's fine, great. See what you think. Be creative, find ways to do it, but you can't cut corners on quality materials and all that when you get to that level. Okay, but don't forget the positive message is in the next video, and that's where I'm going to show you how you can make a lot of money by doing this system and the other one, which is very complementary to this. So I hope you've enjoyed this video today. I bet it was a bit hard, but let it sink in. Going from a rare $100,000 ideal sale of your works at a gallery opening to a $15,000 profit before tax is a pretty tough pill to swallow. But even worse, going from the 30K to a debt of nearly 10K is even more shocking, but that is a lot more realistic to how it is. I don't want to be, Dr. Gloom and Doom, but there's no point mythologizing this. Understanding the problem is pretty much the first step to finding the solution. I didn't want to give up the art world. I wanted to keep going. And I had a natural, instinct or whatever. And I realized very early that the gallery system was just a pain in the ass a lot of the time. It gave me so many headaches, along with really good stuff. So guys, I'm not telling you to avoid the galleries. I'm telling you to use them strategically, because I made a very good living as an artist for, 35, 40 years, and galleries were only one piece of the puzzle. Mind you, a very important piece. Now, in the next video, which I keep harping on about, I'm going to show you how I did it. Pretty much what the system was that I built to actually make money, a decent amount, to sock away, while still getting the leverage and credibility of the good gallery representation that I had. So if you really want to actually make a decent living as an artist, it's pretty well known in the industry, when people don't have this commercial savvy, that artists have to have other jobs. But I reckon you don't. I think you can actually do this as a total artist, but you have to understand how it works. That's why I've just given you this video. So you need to see the next one. Don't give up yet. Make sure you subscribe and put the notifications on so you don't miss it. I'll see you then.